right, and welcome back to the Gemini archives, everyone.
Welcome back. I'm finally not sick.
I was going to say, Lauren is here with us this week. Finally.
Hallelujah.
I know. And that was not Lauren. That was Mike.
Imagine if it was me.
That was you 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, quite literally 2 weeks ago.
We are joined today by a wonderful friend of ours, Mr. Mike Abominator of Ruin and GASP and like 16 other bands. So say hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
We are so happy to finally have you on. This has been like, I don't know how many years in the making. Too many, I would say. Yeah. We wanted you on like years ago, but then when Lauren moved, we didn't even know if we were going to be doing the podcast again after that. So we were like, well, we'll see if it comes back, and it's back now. So here you are.
Hallelujah.
I know, we're so happy to have you. And
thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Definitely.
Thanks. And our little podcast.
Our little
hopefully
podcast.
we'll make it the big podcast soon. We'll start pumping it, and
that'd be sick. I mean, we never intended for it to get big, but if it does, that's cool. I mean,
yeah. Get you guys some revenue money, and become rock stars. And
dude, if only.
That's it. Mansions,
if only it
Ferraris.
worked that way.
Oh man.
Dude, if we make anything off of it, we probably won't, because all we use is fucking copyright music. Like in between like segments. So they're gonna be like, nope, we don't want your copyright shit. Although I will say, when we moved everything to YouTube, we only got one video that got like a copyright strike, and it was for like an Uncle Acid song or something.
Yeah.
And that was it. Everything else was fine. Iron Maiden was fine.
No, and then one was restricted because I put in a Cannibal Corpse song, and it was Germany that restricted it. They're like, you can't play this video in Germany. I'm like, still with the Cannibal Corpse of Germany shit?
Yeah.
Like,
you can't play I Comes the Blood over here.
Yeah.
99999.
Dude, I don't even know what song it was, but we were like, that song? It wasn't even like, it was
a Barnes one, but I don't know. I forgot which one it was.
Yeah, I don't remember. We'd have to go back.
Like,
but
I Will Kill You, I think, or
anymore.
something like that.
It was probably a Barnes song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Germany was probably like, fuck him.
So we're excited to have you. I'm sorry if you can hear that in the background. There's music playing on the other side of my wall, and I'm gonna commit a murder. Because it's as soon as I start record, it's always something happens. So we were thinking it was gonna be Lauren's neighbors, but nope, it's just mine. So
they honked loud as hell before. They were like right outside of here, like laying on the horn, like someone was trying to pick someone up, and I'm like, are we deaf? Like, the fuck?
I'm fucking broadcasting over here, cocksuckers! Shut up!
Literally. So funny. So, Mike, tell us about yourself. We're going to do this like it's speed dating or something. So tell us about yourself.
There we go. And you guys are going to fucking leave. Fuck this creep. We're out of here.
No.
Yeah, I guess the usual, how I started getting into music and stuff like that. I guess we could start when I was a wee lad back in the 70s. And, I was a crying little shit baby that wouldn't shut the hell up. And my brother realized putting on Black Sabbath actually shut me up because I was like fascinated with it. So.
Oh, wow. For us, that was like Barney or something. So very different people.
I was definitely a weird kid for sure.
You were an awesome kid.
I gravitated towards Darth Vader and, all the bad guys and stuff, Jason Voorhees and metal and weird punk and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I was like, he was like, oh shit, put on Black Sabbath. And it was like the Black Sabbath song with the rain and the thunder and everything and the eerie riffs, so it was like, I was just like, oh shit, what's that? I'd stop crying. So next thing you know, every time you'd put on like Judas Priest or Kiss or Black Sabbath or any of that 70s stuff, I would just be totally well behaved and dancing around and getting into it. And then, they put on Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park on TV, and I was just fascinated with Gene Simmons spitting out blood and that whole thing. And
yes,
so I always seemed to gravitate towards the heavy stuff. Back then it was, really heavy metal wasn't even around in my young days, but my brother is 10 years older than I am. So he was you know, he had the crazy music collection of all those classics, you know, even later on Van Halen and Leonard Skinner and Boston and all that classic rock stuff, you know.
Oh, we love
AC/DC.
Boston.
Oh yeah, no, Boston Rules, AC/DC, you know. And then it's like once Iron Maiden came around, I just lost my shit, you know. Like, oh, whoa, this is like wow, you know. And then it wasn't until like Metallica and Slayer and Venom and stuff later where I was like, okay, yeah, this is the path that I want to go for sure. You know.
Yes.
So once you know, my brother became a snob, you know, he met a woman, started concentrating on that, and he's like, I don't need this music collection, all these records. There's these compact discs now. I'm gonna just focus on those and buy those. Oh, okay. So he gave me all his tapes and records. So I just, even to this day, I still have a lot of the old stuff that he gave me. And then he started taking me to concerts when I was old enough, you know, basically when my parents like, okay, that's cool, you can take them, you know. Like first one I went to was AC/DC in '82 for those about to rock tour with the cannons and everything. So
nice.
Angus was just going nuts, you know. And then Def Leppard, you know, in their old heyday, and Scorpions and Judas Priest. And, you know, I saw he took me to the World Slavery Tour, Iron Maiden, you know, the Live After Death around '85. And that was my band for a while.
What I would give.
You know, yeah, it was mind blowing. Yeah, Iron Maiden at that time I mean, they're still the kings pretty much, you know. It's like they're still, you know, I mean, I'm a Sabbath guy, but I'm not going to argue when people say, oh, Iron Maiden's the best ever. It's like, yeah, it's like Priest, Maiden, Sabbath. You can't go wrong with the big three there, you know?
Yes. Well, we all know where I stand.
Oh, yeah.
It's my favorite.
No, Iron Maiden fucking rules. So,
yeah.
And I mean, they were the kings in the mid 80s. Just everything about them. They had the best songs, the best stage show. They were heavier. You know, Priest started getting a little weird with Turbo. Iron Maiden was still heavy duty and, you know, fast and had the epic songs and everything still. So it was undeniable. They were just, they were amazing. But then like Slayer and Metallica came around and was like, whoa, what's this? You know, holy shit.
Right.
And then my brother's girlfriend at the time, now his wife, you know, she's older, but she has a son. So he kind of became a brother figure to me as well. And he was into hardcore punk. So he got me into like Black Flag, Agnostic Front, and Minor Threat, and, you know, all that crazy stuff. I mean, he was even, you know, collecting the Negative Approach 7-inch and all this crazy stuff back in the day, you know, Septic Death, you know, all the really fast stuff, Poison Idea. And because he was like, oh, you think Slayer's fast? Check out this Agnostic Front 7-inch, you know. And I was just kind of like, holy shit, okay, you know. Yeah, and it was pretty much over from there. And then it was always like, once the mid 80s, once I started getting old enough to pick up a guitar and stuff, you know, I just started pressing down on the frets. I was horrible and didn't know what the hell I was doing. I think my mom and my stepdad, like in 86, 87, they got me an acoustic guitar for Christmas, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Then I started taking lessons, got my first guitar in like 87, 88, electric guitar, and it was like a Honda knockoff Eddie Van Halen, you know, 5150 looking guitar. So it had that black, white, and red, you know, design on it, you know.
Nice.
Then started trying to form my first bands, which were absolutely horrible. It was just like jamming with buddies in the garage and stuff. But yeah, I just kind of went from there, and then into the late 80s, you know, started collecting music. And then it was always like on the hunt to find the heavier, faster stuff, you know. So once you started getting into that grindcore and death metal stuff, it was like, okay, yeah, I don't think you can get much faster and heavier than this stuff that was coming around, like Napalm Death and Carcass and Morbid Angel, you know, and all this stuff. So it was just like, all right, yeah, I'm pretty sold on this stuff. And then kind of going backwards and finding out about some of the other bands like Master and Repulsion, Genocide, you know, the Slaughter, you know, like, oh shit, okay. And then along the way, obviously Bathory and Merciful Fate, you know, it was the journey started from there. But, you know, I was always into obviously metal mainly, but, you know, the really heavy and fast punk stuff too, you know.
Same.
And, yeah. I mean, it's very similar, you know, people like to separate those two, but the energy is very similar with both. And, you know, especially, I know Steve Harris doesn't like to admit it, but that old Maiden stuff is very punky, you know.
That's why I liked it initially, because we
Mm-hmm.
started out listening to punk and stuff too, like before we got into a lot of metal and stuff. Like we have cousins that played in punk bands, so that's kind of what we grew up like listening to and stuff. And the Misfits being like one of the first bands, like, because
Misfits.
I had a cousin who's no longer with us. He had a giant, and I said this in the last episode, he had an Iron Maiden tattoo. He also had a giant Misfits like skull on his arm.
Yeah.
And his bicep decided my face, so you couldn't miss it. And
well, he was a wrestler, so that's why the bicep was like a hand.
Oh, nice.
You know?
Yeah. So, you know, we listened to, you know, stuff that he listened to, and some of that was some other like just like Faith No More and like random other bands too. And but we started out listening to a lot of like punk music. It was like a lot of like the Descendants, Minor Threat, Circle Jerks, stuff like that.
Circle Jerks, I love them.
Yeah, me too. And you know, and then I don't know, it was kind of like like you said, they're so similar. It was like a gradual like transition into something just a lot heavier, and you know, then like, you know,
we wanted heavier. Yeah. Why we just wanted heavier stuff. Like punk only does so much, you know.
Sure.
So
So we were, you know, we were into all kinds of stuff growing up, and you know, we had very few like friends who actually like listened to this. So it was mostly just like our cousins that we like talked to about music and stuff until we got older. But so I started
going to shows all the time, and then we
surrounded by posers.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to start like going to the local underground shows to really connect with like the hardcore people, because like most of the people that we went to school with, they're just kind of like casual, like, oh yeah, Skid Row, dude, you know, like got a cardigan long sleeve, I'm ready to kill him. Get out of here, poser.
Yeah, when we were in high school, the emo stuff was really big.
Oh, God.
So
like
I know
popular emo, like, you know, My Chemical Romance stuff, and
it's like all my buddies, their daughters are on to that stuff now. So we're just all like, you know, some of my buddies that have kids, we're just shaking our head like, oh my God, what?
Let's hope it's just a phase.
Circling back to the Misfits real quick, like, I know like that, you know, obviously there's a lot of memes about them, and a lot of people think they're goofy and this and that. Although, you know, when they got back together, like they were playing stadiums and stuff, you know, with the festivals and Danzig was doing and all that. But I mean, they were an incredible band, and they were so unique and creepy with the horror stuff, and they were just so, you know, they were putting out their own records, and it was just really. I always looked up to them, you know, because they had no one sounded like them, you know, even to this day. The bands try to mix it up or whatever, and they try or whatever, but it's just like that. They were just so hardcore and so unique, and I think that's why they stand the test of time. And I fucking absolutely love that band, that early period, you know. And I even like some of the Michael Graves stuff later, the Famous Monsters. It's fun, you know. I saw them, you know, at some of those shows on Halloween and Hollywood and shit like that. It was a lot of fun. But it's not the same, you know, that original Misfits vibe is just kind of like, oh man, I kind of did want to see the reunion. You know, I know they've been playing out the last few years or whatever, but it's like tickets are always like $200 or whatever. So
it's outrageous.
So, and then, you know, surrounded by thousands of, you know, morons or whatever that really don't have that same love. And you know what I mean? It's just kind of like, nah, I think I'll pass. I'll just watch the videos.
The people who thought like the Misfits was like a fashion brand and not an actual band.
Yeah.
You know, like,
no, they were
drives me nuts.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's fucking great, you know, because I know that career wise, it was great for those guys to get back out there with it. And that's the main thing that Danzig said, which he's right. The fans wanted it, you know, and he was like, okay, now is the time. You know, he found the sweet spot. He held on. Nope. I hate it. I'm not doing it. Nope. And then it was like, okay, now we're doing it, motherfuckers. And I'm going to make a fucking shit ton of money at this. And it's like, dude, more power to him, you know?
Right. You know, and it's funny because that's kind of where like, well, my more so than I'm not going to speak for Lauren, but I have like a love for like classic horror movies and stuff like that. And I have like original artwork from what's his name, and he did like the Misfits album covers. Well, the Michael Graves ones anyway. Basil Gogos or whatever his name is.
Oh yeah.
I have some of his original artwork because I bought it from someone. Great. Yeah, there's a museum here in Connecticut called the Witch's Dungeon, and the guy who owns it, his great uncle was what movie was it, Lauren? Not American Werewolf in London. It was The Wolfman. That's what it was.
The Wolfman, yeah.
So Henry Hull, that was his great grandfather. So he has this huge museum full of like wax figures and stuff like that. And he was like friends with Vincent Price and all this crazy
and it's
stuff.
all the memorabilia from like classic horror movies.
Yeah, no, that period's also so unique and so cool. And the Misfits were kind of tied to all that too. A lot of the classic Universal monsters and the weird, campy, 50s and 60s horror movies that Glenn was all into. And he still is too, apparently.
Yep. And
there's a lot of people. A lot of our buddies here, like the Poor Kids, they're like a collective over in Northeast LA. And some of the KNEC guys, my buddy Craig, they work for Glenn. So they go on tour with him and stuff like that. And they do a lot of handling and stuff. So I've met Glenn at my buddy Bart from AWS Wrestling. He used to do Extinction of God fanzine with me. He does, so he's head of security at Frankensons. It's a big collectible toy show here in City of Industry, which is like an industrial park part of Los Angeles. And Glenn, he buys toys there. So like Kerry King would show up, Glenn would show up. So we hang out with those guys every once in a while.
Awesome.
It's funny how short both of those guys are too. And everyone's like, oh no, those guys are both intimidating and they're dicks and this and that. And it's like me and my buddies are, some of my buddies, like Bart's huge and some of these other guys, Big Joe, Big Samoan Indian friend of mine. And like, we'd show up or whatever, and these little guys, Glenn and Carrie are looking up. Oh shit, hey, what's up, guys? But they were totally cool. We'd hang out for about an hour.
I was gonna say, did you pick him up like a Chihuahua and be like, "Oh, look how cute he is"?
It's just funny. They weren't rock stars at all. They were both totally cool. They'd be like, Carrie was there with his wife, and they were just fanboys, just buying toys and comics and stuff like that because Frankensons is like one of the best collectible places in Southern California that you can get stuff like that. And Carrie's all into the Raiders, so he was buying like old Raider sports, like trading cards and stuff like that, football cards and whatnot. So but now Glenn is like, he's all about it, man. You talk to him, and I was chatting with him about old horror movies and stuff, and he's just like way bigger nerd than I am about that stuff. Like, I'm into it, but like he is just like quizzing me on stuff. Oh shit, dude, hey man, I don't get that deep with it, brother. I'm more of a Friday the 13th Halloween guy.
Yeah, no, I could take him. No,
yeah, I'm sure you could. Yeah. Hey, my buddy Megan, man, she'll fucking take you out though, bro.
Yeah. No, but that's kind of like where our love for stuff kind of originated too. Was just like, because when we were kids, like we would watch this with like our great grandmother, who we actually were around a lot more than our actual grandma, who died when we were way too young, and she played like, it was all the classics and stuff, just like any black and white horror movie, Bride of Frankenstein,
so
like,
cool.
like we would go over every single day. We go over and see her and like but when we got out of school, we watched Emerald with her. And then later that night,
she loved that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then later that night, it would be like some movie or something. And my mom, like, that's not appropriate for little girls. And my grandma's like, it's fine.
Yeah.
So she's
there.
Yeah,
no, that's rad. Yeah, my family, like my mom was always super cool. She'd take me and my buddies to see Friday the 13th in the theater, and like, she was just like, "Oh my god, what am I doing? This is so violent." And we're just laughing. She's okay. These kids, they're not serial killers. They're all right. Go back to the neighborhood and start pretending to stab each other and stuff. And it was, my family was always like, especially with the metal and the horror and all that stuff. They realized my stepdad was. He came from a Southern Baptist family. So my real dad was just nuts. He was all about it. I mean, he was the one that was showing me, Charles Bronson and Clint Eastwood movies. See, son, when someone messes with you, you shoot him in the fucking face, and my mom, he'd walk off and my mom would be like, don't listen to your father. Revenge is not good. And I'm just like, Corn, well, you're both kind of right, but I don't know. I'm kind of siding with dad on this one, Ma. You believe in Jesus? Yeah, I do. You're gonna meet him. Fucking shoot him with a 44 Magnum. Feel lucky, punk. So
that's so funny.
My dad got me into the violence and the action movies, and then, but my mom was always like super cool about all that stuff. She realized, even I remember like one Halloween, I was really sick, so I couldn't go trick or treating. So she went to the family video store and rented me a shit ton of videos, and it was funny because I was a little shit about it. She rented me all these unknown like King Fowley classics, like the stuff that King always talked about, Facebook posts and stuff, which all rule, right? So it's like, let's scare Jessica to death and Scanners and all this stuff I'd never heard of. And I was like, this movie sucked. This is ridiculous. So of course, then I felt bad later because once I started watching, she picked a bunch of gems because she talked to the video guy. hey, what are the best horror movies? And he literally picked like The Changeling and like all these killer flicks. And
yeah. Oh my God.
Glued to the TV all night, all sick as shit, but like totally enjoying it with my little popcorn and whatnot. So yeah, it was great. It was one of my favorite Halloweens, actually, even though I was sick as a dog. I was like, I remember that one more than some of the other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. I know, because we used to go with my cousins, because my cousins that lived near us, they were all babies. They were younger than us. So me and Lauren got tasked with bringing them trick-or-treating every year.
Oh, nice.
And
that's fun, though.
Yeah, it's fun when they're kids.
Yeah.
But,
as long as like, the neighborhood assholes aren't throwing eggs at you guys. That's what used to happen to us in like the hood in LA.
No.
We get shit thrown at us and like, the little terrorizers, which I later became, but I would only pick on certain people,
Yeah.
No, we were
deserved it. I wasn't like a bully or anything, but I'd start throwing eggs at some of the kids that were assholes, like, oh, I don't like those kids. Get a whole
no, Lauren and I were bigger than everyone else, so no one like ever fucked with it. We're almost 6 feet tall. I don't know if I ever told you this, but we're pretty tall. We were always tall, so we kind of towered over everyone. We weren't fucked with very much, thank God.
The Twin Towers.
Literally,
that's what we used to be called.
Yeah. Literally, that is what we were called when we were young. And then 9/11 happened, and everyone was like,
shit.
"Oh, yeah, maybe we shouldn't do that."
We're gonna change our name now.
Yeah, then it became an insult. People said it to get at us. So
yeah.
Well.
The amount of things we were called as children, just being twins alone, like, people were.
Oh, but being called big, fat, ugly had nothing to do with being a twin.
Yeah. Trust me, I was called
the kid who used to call me that died, so I don't care.
Kids are fucking pieces of shit, It's like, man, they're the worst sometimes. So it's like, it kind of, I feel bad for some of these kids that commit suicide now after like online bullying and stuff. Don't get me wrong, but it's kind of like a lot of that stuff made me stronger and actually pissed me off and motivated me to either smack them around, defend myself, or just ignore them. And you're a fucking idiot. And you're literally going to end up fucking living in your grandma's basement, being a troll online, which is pretty much what they all are now. So
yeah, I know. But the difference now is like, now with the internet, it's like, it doesn't just stop when you go home. Now it's like, it just 24/7, like verbal assaults on people. And that's so that's what's sad about it.
It is. No, that's why I definitely feel bad for some of these kids, man. If they get caught in that vortex, it's like, holy shit, And I remember, Megan, you're telling me about Aaron Hernandez. I don't know if we want to, talk about this stuff, but it was like I just saw a documentary on that piece of shit, and I was just like, oh man.
Yeah, we knew him. Lauren and I knew
you guys,
Yeah.
Yeah, he went to a rival high school and knew people we knew.
Yeah, he would come to our high school sometimes, and he was friends with like a cousin of ours, and he would be at the house.
He would go to his house parties. Like they'd have house parties with my younger cousins around, and he was there, and I'm like, yikes.
Doesn't sit. He was always like rude to me and Lauren, and so we didn't know him that well, but yeah, like if he saw us, he would like make some smart ass remark or something, and we were just like, "What, this fucking guy? Who cares?" But no, I know. My mom watched the documentary and felt bad for him, and I was like, "Why?" I was like, "Why would you feel bad for him?"
Because she fell for what everyone else probably fell for.
The manipulation in a sense.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got supporters still, like former teammates from Florida, the college, and most of the New England Patriots fucking like. Tom Brady won't even fucking say his name in public anymore. And I know that like Edelman and Gronkowski and, they have podcasts and stuff, and they'll say his name and they'll really quickly kind of sweep over it real quick.
Yeah.
And then somebody will, the producer be like, because that's a no-no these days. That's like a scarlet letter talking about that asshole.
Yeah. Like same here.
Guys,
yeah. Like around here, you won't really hear anyone talking about him or mentioning him. It's funny, they had his wake at the funeral home I used to intern at around the corner, and it was owned by one of my grandpa's best friends. And I remember that day I was just like, I'm so glad I don't work there anymore, because that would have been a nightmare and a half.
They closed the whole street down when that happened. The news was there. It was a lot.
Yeah.
No, it was something crazy, I mean, I know that was a circus, so.
Dude, I remember like the funeral home is like 2 minutes up the road from me. The traffic was backed up all the way. It's like if you take a left out of my house and go that way. So it was back past my house all the way down almost to like the other road. Like it was insane. Like how many
5 minutes
cars
down the road. Yeah.
My dad couldn't even go to work that day because he couldn't get out of the driveway. Like we were like, what the fuck?
That's so crazy too. I mean,
it was insane.
It couldn't have happened to a better person, right? I mean, sorry.
Right.
No, I know. Don't, God bless the dead and all that crap. But yeah, that guy, that's an example. Like I put him up there with the serial killers. Like, bye-bye piece of shit. It's like just one of those things, man. He's just, there's certain people I feel bad for when they die. Even some of these like rappers and musicians, they might not have been the best person on earth, but some people get caught up in stupid shit, But he specifically just Anyways, sorry to bring it up, but it was just kind of
it
was in my thoughts this week. I was gonna say, you know what? I kind of want to talk about that real quick for some odd reason. I have to get it out of my system because I'm a weirdo like that. When I have something in my head, I gotta fucking talk about it. I get obsessed with it in a weird way.
Dude, I'm the same way. You know what? Like, I was on the last episode we did with Francisco. Well, it was 2 episodes again now, Terminator Timeline. I talked about when the Sandy Hook shootings happened, and that's when I was working at the hospital still doing embalming donated bodies and stuff, and they were understaffed, and I had to go in and help that day. When I tell you, that was like, I remember looking at Lauren and I'm like, I'm not going to be the same after this. Like I was,
like PTSD shit.
Yeah, it was bad. I came home and I think I drank half a bottle of whiskey and went to bed. I was like, I'm done. I
left
didn't
your
go to
shoes
work
outside and you're like, fuck this.
So the bodies were coming to where you were working, the kids' bodies and stuff?
Yeah, because the hospital down near Sandy Hook, which would have been Danbury Hospital, there was not enough room for all the people. So they brought them up to the next biggest hospital, which is where I worked because there was the medical school there. So it was a bad. We were watching it on the news, just like crying, you know. Like my dad grew up in Danbury, the town over, and he knew some of the people that work there and stuff. Like he went to high school with them and stuff. So my dad was like a mess for like a week. And
remember what happened to Sandy Hook too, Meg?
Oh yeah, our cousin, a cousin of ours got murdered in Sandy Hook.
Man.
By gang members.
Yeah.
So tried to get robbed by someone in the Latin Kings, I think, and they shot him because he wouldn't give his shit up, or I think he wanted the necklace he was wearing. Yeah. So that was the last thing at Sandy Hook to happen before that, and it's so bizarre because I'm like, damn, that's crazy. But
because Sandy Hook is one of those places where nothing happens.
Oh, of course.
Nothing bad happens there.
Now it's obviously the word alone is just infamous, and that's what it's known for, unfortunately. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's literally, it's like, I mean, until the Texas shooting with those kids, Sandy Hook. I think Sandy Hook is still the more infamous one in a sense, but Uvalde's fucking, that's crazy too. It's just like, it's so unreal. I mean, it's the other events in history, 9/11 and some of these other tragedies and mass shootings or whatever are horrific. Don't get me wrong, but Sandy Hook just has this weird. It's just like, fuck, man. It's just
it's
we were all watching it out here too, and I was tearing up too. Like, I can't fucking believe this. This is fucking. I don't have kids, but I have nieces and nephews, and I'm uncle to so many of my friends' children. It's just like, I dig kids, man. And it's just it's unfucking believable.
Like
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I remember when my aunt, so my cousin's mom, went to the cemetery and she took a picture and showed us that where my cousin's buried, and Sandy Hook is all the other kids like right next to him. So they're all in like one little part of this cemetery. Dude, Connecticut's fucked up. Like, we got a lot of ghosts and weird shit.
Oh,
the most exorcisms in the state.
Yeah. No, Connecticut is kind of like an underrated hotbed of like crazy shit for sure. Because it's kind of like
warrants for that.
It's infamous yet forgotten in New England, and people, it's not part of New England though, but it is, but it's not, but it is.
But it is.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you guys would know more than anybody, but most of the like the hardcore New Englanders that I talk to are always like, oh yeah, Connecticut's part of it, because it's also kind of part of New York in a weird way too, because there's so many New Yorkers that move over there and whatnot. It's kind of like with Oregon and Nevada here in Cali. It's almost like, all right,
Yeah, they come to Utah too, so.
everyone's coming to Utah and in Texas, you know, because
everyone needs to go.
Cheap. Right?
Like,
Lauren, you're a typical transplant now. You're like total Utah strong, like keep the fuck out of my state now. Like anybody after me that moves here fucking sucks.
Oh my God. Well, it's because I live in West Jordan. It's like the third most populated city. Everyone lives here. And I'm like, we're full. Like you can leave.
Yeah, totally.
So
and you know what's funny about Utah too? I was just talking to Rhett from Gravehill and Stygian Crowd. We played Sunday. So so Rhett and his wife Lily came, and it was awesome because they never go anywhere. Because especially since they moved into the middle of nowhere out in the East Desert. And because you have to move out there in California to afford a house these days. So
yeah.
I literally move like 2.5 hours out into the desert to afford anything. So they got a killer house out there. It's awesome. Yeah, but they came to the show, so we were catching up and hanging out. And we were talking about Utah, and we were laughing because it was like there's so many white people in Utah. It's so crazy. Like you go to the fast food restaurants, all white people back there. We stayed at the Motel 6, all white people, janitorial staff, the maids, everybody, the cleaners, the staff behind the counter, all white people. We're just like, what the fuck is going on? But then the real creepy thing is when Utah's beautiful. Don't get me wrong, especially the eastern part towards Colorado, like, and all the national park areas in northern Utah, like, are so amazing. Don't get me wrong, Salt Lake is cool, you know. But southern Utah is kind of like southern Nevada. It's kind of like
it's just desert,
you know. Yeah. But I like that high desert mountainous terrain, you know, like northern Arizona and northern Utah, northern Nevada. I prefer that. Obviously, most of Colorado is like that. It's just fucking gorgeous, you know. Especially northern California too, like, you know, Oregon, Seattle, Washington. It's fucking gorgeous. But Utah is crazy, and I was always laughing, like not laughing, but. You know, you drive out in the middle of nowhere on the highway in Utah, and there's this house, and it looks like a compound because then there's like a barn and a church. Obviously, it's a Mormon arrangement or whatever. And I'm always like, oh no, they're gonna film another documentary there. You know, Escaping Polygamy Part 6. You know, this and that. There's all these like teenage girls running in dresses out in the middle. Get in, hurry.
How many of those documentaries exist now? Like all these culty type things. Like,
no, it was a fucking like epidemic for a few years. There was so many of those fucking things. I know everything's like true crime now, you know, because the paranormal stuff and all the polygamy documentaries are kind of dying down. The cult stuff is still there because it's kind of intertwined in the true crime stuff. So the religious cult stuff, if you go on Discovery Plus or Netflix, it's still there. But it's all serial killers and mass murderers now. If you look, you know, it's just like, and even on YouTube, it's like you fall into that rabbit hole. It's all that stuff.
Dude, I know. Like I don't even remember what it was called, but it was like a 5-part documentary series thing, and it was like this, like religious cult basically. And I was like, how did this fucking happen? Like,
I don't know any Scientologists or other cult people, but as far as like, I have so many other religious type people that I know, that I work with, that I'm friends with, that I'm like totally, I mean, whether it's Satanists all the way to Christians, and I don't really know too many Mormons, but you know, whatever, you know, hey, like, you know, everybody's cool with me, I'm cool with them, you know, whatever they want to believe.
They're aggressively nice.
Totally. And I know Megan and I were like, hey, no religion, no politics, but here we go talking about
I know.
And shit.
Well, we're not telling people,
though, right?
We're not telling people to go practice.
Please don't, as a matter of fact. Please don't.
Yeah,
I highly recommend not becoming religious if you don't have to. If you have to, good luck.
I mean,
good luck.
Like we've talked on the show before, like Lauren and I do tarot readings. We're pretty spiritual.
No,
I
that's
guess.
Awesome.
Like, so like, you know,
totally.
we're into that kind of thing, but and that's like a lot of people up here too in Connecticut, especially because of all like the paranormal stuff
and all that.
You'll find a lot of mediums, a lot of ghost hunters, quote unquote, which 98% of them are garbage, but you know, you know, you could tell when it's someone just like, you know, like the Zach Baggins of the world. And,
oh God,
you know,
don't even say his name, please.
Dude, anyone, like there was a YouTube channel Lauren and I used to watch, and I'm not going to say it because I'm sure there's people that like it still, whatever, I don't care. But like they went to his museum out in Vegas or wherever it is.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah,
I just saw them go there, and I was like, I'm not watching this shit anymore. I'm like, like, it's so well, because when I found out like how he acquired a lot of that stuff, like how he just, took it and like it wasn't his to take, and like stuff that was like Charles Manson's that really was supposed to go to his estate and all this shit.
That was Michael Channels who talked about that, remember? Because he had some stuff that Zach wanted. Yes. And he was trying to get it from him. And it was a mess. Michael Channels is close to Charles Manson, so
Zach's a douche. Yeah, he's a total douche. There's, I like the Dead Files, and I watch.
Me too.
Weidman and her friends or whatnot are very entertaining. She was on the Paranormal State for a while.
Yeah.
So I watched some of the ghost shows or whatever. They're very entertaining. Steve Shippey is really cool. He's like a Midwest guy, whatever. He's just like a big dude that just goes and investigates and tries to help people, that are really tormented by this shit. And the Warrens, the OG Warrens back in the day. I mean, whether they were shysters or not, all that stuff very entertaining to me. You know what I mean? Like, the spirituality stuff is totally. Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah. Well, we met
the museum's an hour from where we lived in Connecticut.
Oh, okay. So. That's awesome.
Yeah. We met Lorraine. We went to Ed's grave, and my parents met them in the 80s when they were in college. That was their first date. Was Halloween night. They did a lecture at WestCon, which is where they went to college, and that's where my parents went. And then and I said this in the last episode too. I'm like, then they wonder why they have daughters that are into weird shit. It's like you're basically gearing yourself up for that. But no, we met Lorraine in 2013. It was right when the Conjuring movie, before it came out. And
a few, 2 months before it came out. We went for our 21st birthday. So.
Yeah. So Lauren got tickets. She looked at me. She's like, we're going. And I'm like, oh, shit. So
it was like $115 or something. It was a lot of money per person.
A lot of money.
Yeah. But we had a free dinner at the end, like a big dinner. So
better get fucking steak and lobster.
Yeah, it was a buffet, bitch. Like it was a lot of food.
Yeah. Buffet. I can deal with a buffet.
Yeah. But it was really cool. Like, of course, when we went, it was like pouring rain out. It was the end of May, but it was like freezing and pouring rain. Like, we were like, it looked like a horror movie. It was dark as fuck. I'm like, we're gonna die. Like, me and Lauren literally were the last ones to get there because we got lost. And
in the town of Monroe, Connecticut, where they live, is literally one street. And we had to go down a hill, through a bridge, on a dead end, and there's the house. And I'm like, we're literally in a horror movie. It was so scary.
Quite lit, and there's all these woods around, and it's so quiet, and you're like, okay, this is how I die. And we walk in, it's her nephew greets us, Tony Sparrow, who still runs the museum.
He runs the museum now. Yeah. Now that they both passed.
So he was really nice. I liked him. And we're sitting there. Her cats are jumping on us. She had like 4 cats all over us. I'm like, oh my God.
The crazy cat lady.
Yeah, she was. And there was a priest there. Like, it was legit. Like, an actual like Roman Catholic priest was there blessing the house. Like, we were like, what the, and we watched like actual tapes from like investigations they went on. Some dude was like bleeding out of his eyes. I'm like,
seriously. And it was on a VHS,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like, this is pre like, special effects and CGI. So we were like, okay, this is legit. And you go in the museum and everything is like this close to you. And they're like, don't touch anything. And I'm like, okay, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm gonna fucking. I had sleep paralysis episodes for 6 months after I went there.
Oh, same. It was bad.
And
oh shit.
It was bad. I had one before they stopped. I had like this one dream where I was like laying on a road or something, and there was like a demon screaming in my ear. Dude, when I tell you,
you might have had some crazy energy attachment or some shit.
Yeah, I definitely did too.
I definitely believe in a lot of that crazy shit for sure.
Yeah, like I was in a relationship that became physically abusive at the time after I went, and
damn,
it was like a 180 all of a sudden, and I was like, okay, there's something fucking with me. Dude, and then after 6 months, it like finally like went away. Well, what they tell you is don't acknowledge it, just ignore it, and then they'll get bored and leave. So I'm like, okay, and me and Lauren for 6 months were like freaking the fuck out. Like, oh my God, what is happening?
Yeah, people get shit-faced on the 21st birthday. Us, it's demons for 6 months. So.
Dude, it's crazy.
We're all fucked up.
Yeah, so we're gonna go to a break on that note.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put in here a couple songs. Here, I wrote them down. I can't read though because I don't have my glasses on. So we're gonna put in a couple bands you've been in. We'll do Gasp and Gravehill,
All right.
which are two of my favorite bands. And not even just because, you know, I love you, but I genuinely love those bands, and especially Gravehill. When we come back, I want to talk about this because
absolutely. Yeah.
I learned about Gravehill because of Chris, you know, who everyone knows. If you've been listening to the podcast, he was my boyfriend who passed away.
He's in the top corner. I see him.
Oh yeah, Mike's got the drawing I did of him behind him. Oh, yep. And then there's you underneath him.
Yep, there's me underneath that. Well, don't worry about that guy. That guy, don't worry about that guy. We're talking about Chris.
But I want to talk about that too because you guys grew up together and stuff.
Yeah,
and he's the one that
he's connected to Gasp and Gravehill in that sense. So I got some funny stories about all that. So
dude, I can't wait to hear those. So we're gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna put those songs in, and we'll be right back.
Destiny, the masters of earth. Almighty Dark Lord,
Welcome back to the Gemini Archives, everyone. Or welcome back from that break, I should
Gemini
say.
Archive.
We hope you enjoyed those songs. We got more coming. So we've been sitting here and Mike catching up for like, what, 20 minutes or so?
Yeah.
That was a long break.
Yeah.
We talked about a lot of shit offline. Fuck you people. You don't deserve to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll never hear
We
it.
love you.
We love you so much. So before we went to the break, I was mentioning how Chris or Mike was friends with my late boyfriend Chris, and they grew up together and stuff. So you want to talk about that a little bit? Because I know he had stories. I'm sure you have some great ones too.
Yeah. No, I kind of too, I'm the one thing I'm disappointed about is I can't find my Kangrena demo that one of his best friends, Sal, gave me and Bart EOG, for the fanzine and stuff back in the day when we first met him. And that's when we first met Chris. But I literally grabbed it the other day, and then I said, my genius brain here, my lack of brain cells, I always stash it somewhere like, oh yeah, this is clever. I'll remember where I put this. And, because I specifically set aside something for this, and then I forget where I put it. So,
oh no.
Whatever, we'll probably, with all the babbling I'm doing today, we'll probably have a part 2 at some point. So
yes, we will have you back on for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Because we're going to go on too long, and I don't want to keep you guys. But at the end of the day, I did grab some stuff, and I know, we don't have visual for the podcast, but so everybody that's listening right now, I'm wearing my Septic Death shirt in tribute to Chris, because he was not aware of septic death when I first met him. And he showed up. So basically the history with Chris and I is that what ended up happening was Chris is from Redondo Beach, which is like the top tip of the South Bay. Even though a lot of Redondo people, it's kind of like Connecticut. Oh no, it's not part of New England. It's part of the fucking South Bay. Okay, so South Bay is like a whole region of Southern California where it's like a lot of pride. Even like San Pedro, like that's a tough city. That's a port city, kind of like Oakland. It's kind of like rough and tumble. A lot of hoods there and whatnot. that's kind of part of the South Bay, even though they said, no, we're just Pedro, man. We're not part of that shit. Redondo's kind of similar because a lot of Redondo's like upper class surfer culture, this and that beach, like, yuppies getting drunk with their pinkies in the air and shit like that, having fun, drinking mimosas, like, oh God. Yeah.
Right.
So, but yeah, Chris was from the crappy part of Redondo, the southern part towards the other South Bay part, kind of like towards Lawndale, Lomita, Hawthorne, whatnot. So, what ended up happening was Cynthia, GASP's bass player, she was dating Sal from Cangrena, and Sal lived in Longdale, right off of Hawthorne Boulevard right there. He had a garage where Cangrena practiced, and when they were dating, when Cynthia joined GASP, Mitch and I had already started jamming with GASP, and it was just two of us, and we would just basically jam wherever we could because we were still young. We couldn't afford recording studios or rehearsal studios, anything like that. So we were just jamming in garages and anywhere we could, basically. So at one point, Sal was like, no, you guys can practice like in my garage. You just have to do it before Cangrena practice. So do it, Cangrena practices on Sundays and we can make noise and no big deal because most of the neighbors are gone, whatever. They're doing this. They don't care. So, and it was an apartment complex, but it was kind of in the hood, in Lawndale, whatever. So nobody really gives a shit there, as far as noise and shit like that. So we GASP would practice like in the late morning, early afternoon. And then when we were done with our set, Cangrena would practice. But one day Chris shows up to practice. And because he, was friends with Sal. And Mitch kind of knew Chris too, because Mitch was in Ritual, the black metal band.
Yeah.
And so he knew Chris from that. I'd seen Chris around at that time, but we never had actually officially met. So we finally got introduced. And once Chris and I started talking, I realized like, oh shit, yeah. Because he's like 2 or 3 years younger than me, Chris was. So, and I was also like an arrogant fucking motherfucker. Like I was already OG at that time. So I was like, oh yeah, I know my shit and these fucking posers, because all my friends are older and I had my older brother, right? So I was like, oh, I was a little fucking prick, right? So I was like fucking telling Chris, man, you don't know shit, man. Let me show you some shit, bro. So, So, he was into the local scene or whatever, but I started showing him demos and, like I said, we don't have visuals or whatever, but
the visuals are just for me. Sorry, everybody.
The visuals are just for you, but like a couple
me and Lauren, I should say.
A couple of the first demos, because he was describing to me like, dude, like the type of music he really likes was like obviously till his last days was like the real crazy fast thrashing stuff,
Yes.
So Nunslaughter was like the first couple demos that I showed him.
Oh,
and
man.
He really got into it. So, because like at the EOG fanzine, we were writing to Dawn back in the day. So we were showing him the Nunslaughter demos. And Chris was like hooked after that, as far as that stuff goes. He really got into that style, whatever. And but a couple of the other ones too, like locally, that specific day, I remember like after practice, and I think Cangrena actually canceled that day for whatever reason. I think the drummer had to work. So we ended up just getting like a case of Newcastle, a case of Guinness, a bunch of Kahlua, and a bunch of really good weed. So we just fucking partied in the garage until dark, and there was like a car wash right there on like Hawthorne Boulevard. So there was like, nobody even gave a shit, because like I said, it was an alley. So basically the garage was open, the alley's right there. So, every once in a while some neighborhood guys would roll by or whatever. And like, everybody was cool. But we really got into the Nausea demo too, the Tumor 92 demo. That was like one of the things that we played that day that Chris was like, oh shit,
Yeah.
Really got into that. And then the first Master album was another one that we played that day.
Nice.
I'll never forget.
So good.
And the first Master, was talking about how badass Master was. And then like later on, Chris was really into Sepsism, that death metal band from LA.
Yes.
They were a little bit more brutal, grindy or whatever, but yeah, they were really good. They were really good. So we were playing a lot of Sepsism that day. And then one band that was like really fucking popular with us was Catalepsy. Those are our good friends. They were from South LA. And we were like really into them. And those are a couple of Chris's favorites, So that day specifically, I just remember for some reason, it was just weird, like meeting him for the first time. We were just almost like long lost brothers. You know what I mean? So it was, he was a really unique dude. Really almost like soaking up stuff like a sponge, but he was also turning me onto a lot of stuff too. And then it was kind of funny. Like, I know a lot of his war metal bros later on would probably frown upon this, but Chris was really into gangster rap. So we're listening to Compton's Most Wanted and a lot of Ghetto Boys that day or whatever. But I found my old Compton's Most Wanted tape that we were playing that day and whatnot. So CMW, you can't beat it. So we became buddies after that, and he was just another kindred spirit that was just hanging out with us and kind of became part of the family. And then he ended up, hanging out with us quite a bit back then. We became tight. And then obviously, like, once the 90s evolved and GASP started changing a little bit, we started doing a lot of drugs and, experimenting with different types of music, getting a little bit different. It was, I don't remember, like, we kind of lost track of a lot of people. And then Chris ended up moving. He came
back to Mass, I think. He told me when he was like 18 or something.
Right. So he ended up moving east. And I had lost track of him for years until MySpace, and then all of a sudden, boom, Chris hits me up. "What's up, dude?" And I was like, "Wait a minute, what the fuck? Chris Campbell? What's up, brother?" And then, Mitch and I and Cynthia had always become, we remained friends even after GASP broke up. We broke up in 99. And I don't think I heard from Chris again until like 2005 or something like that, in the MySpace heyday, whatnot.
Wow.
And, that was even before Facebook. And Chris kind of just started finding people. And I told Mitch and Cynthia, "Dude, fucking Chris hit me up, And I hadn't talked to Sal in years until Facebook in the mid 2010s or whatever,
Yeah.
And but Chris, he had hit me up prior to that. So Chris and I reconnected, and then moving towards the Gravehill era, Chris was keeping in contact with that. I was sending him shirts and, LPs and CDs and tapes, and, we were trading. He'd send me Martivore stuff, and he was doing his thing because I was friends with Terry from Grief and Come to Grief, He was in the band for a while, and Josh and those guys became friends with a couple of those other guys. It was cool. And then the Chris came out to the Brooklyn show that Gravehill did. We went out there for Day of Death in Buffalo, but the night prior we played Brooklyn right before Hurricane Sandy or Superstorm Sandy or whatever.
Yeah.
I know Chris was he was dealing with all that too, because they had to get the hell out of Brooklyn because the storm was coming, and we had to get the hell out of there, and we were stranded in Buffalo for a while because the airport got shut down. That shit was gnarly. But
dude, I remember he told me he got into a fight after that show, and he bounced some dude's skull off the sidewalk. That was like one of the first things he ever told Lauren when they like met, and Lauren was like, great. That was that show. Yeah. I remember he's like, because he showed me the picture of you and him, like, "Oh, I'll do this, my friend Mike and Gravehill." And, he like, I remember it's one of the first conversations we had, and I was like, "Oh, cool." And I was like, nervous.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember he told me about that later. We had left by the time all that went down or whatever, because Brooklyn's Brooklyn, like shit happens, even though it's kind of more gentrified. Even then, we were tripping out because I remember prior to, being in Brooklyn prior, it was like a Dominican gangbanger neighborhood, all the bodegas and stuff. And it was crazy. There was thugs everywhere and homeless. But when 2012, we played there, it was gentrified. There's hipsters and all kinds of white people there on their phones. White people on their phones. It's like, all right, yeah, this is a different neighborhood now.
Yeah, it's a little different now. But
even Chris was saying that when we were there. But I mean, I know it's way worse now than it even was. Like 2012 is like years ago now. It
was like over a decade, right?
Yeah, almost 20 years almost. It's like now it's what? No, well, not quite 15 yet, but still, you know what I mean? It feels like it was 20 years ago,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the crazy stories. So Chris came up to Mitch's house up in La Crescenta. Mitch lived up in the hills up there in La Crescenta, which is like kind of like one of those quote unquote bedroom communities, like right on the edge of LA County, going into the valley of LA.
Yeah.
infamous valley of LA, but Lacrimosa is like this little quiet community right there. And Mitch and his, Mitch's parents lived up there. Mitch was living there at the time, and Chris came up there, and Mitch and I had mushrooms. So Chris had never heard Septic Death before. That's why I'm wearing my Septic Death shirt today, by the way. I know there's no visuals on this podcast, but I'm wearing my Septic Death shirt to tribute to Chris. And that was the first time he shroomed. So it was funny because he did vomit after, I was trying to train him on how to take him, because by that time I was a druggy veteran. I was a hallucinogenic veteran. So I was like, okay, you got to do this, you got to do that, but he wasn't listening, so whatever. But it was cool. But then, of course, like once you vomit, you start hallucinating. So that's what he did, and that's when I put on Septic Death and blew his fucking mind. And I know that at that time, that was definitely one of his favorite fucking bands of all time. He was just like, oh my God, because they were just so, Pusshead and the guys were just, that was such a, that band was like 25 years ahead of its time,
Right.
The craziest music ever, for back then.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like him. Because I remember like when we started dating, and by the way, I don't know if I said this before we started talking about him, but he was in Martivore. That's the band that he's known for, but he also did Festered, which is my favorite person.
Oh yeah, what a great album. Wayne and
Justin.
Justin. Yeah.
It's one of my favorites.
Guys, all three of them, but Justin's very well known. So is Wayne, and but yeah, Chris. They got Chris for a reason, because that Festered album is fucking incredible. It's one of my favorite death metal records.
Same, and he told me though, like towards the end, like he was just over it because he was playing guitar and bass. So there was like one of the last few songs, there was like a solo he did. He's like, dude, it's so fucking sloppy. Like it's so awful. Like he's like, I just wanted it to be done. And I listened to it and I'm like, if you didn't say anything, I wouldn't have picked that up. But now that you said that, I'm like, I'm going to hear it every single time now.
Yeah, right.
So, I remember him telling me about that. And there was another like band, Scum Bitch, I think was the name that he did.
Yeah.
And, I think he did that with Josh. I don't remember exactly. But most known for when he was in Martivore. And it's just weird because when I was around him, he's always playing guitar and stuff, and everyone knows him for being a vocalist. So I just always thought that was weird.
Well, but that's where he became known for, especially with the imagery, because he was so crazy looking, with those pictures. Like when Martivore started taking off, it was like, holy shit, this big dude, the fucking just the blood and the upside down cross and the
real bones,
everything. Oh yeah, no, the real bones and everything, man. He was fucking killing it.
He would send me pictures, like when he would be working, he'd find bones, something, places, and like from deer and whatever. And he was like, oh, I got new stuff from Martivore. And I'm like, great. Just like, Jesus Christ. So that's why, like, and I go up to Plymouth and stay with him for the weekend. I'd see like all these bones hanging on the walls and stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, no, I get it from Martivore. And I'm like, and the chains he wore were like actual, like meant to pull like trucks kind of chains. Like,
right.
Dude, he had the strength of like 150 men. I'm like,
oh yeah, no, he was a tough kid, man. He's a tough, big dude. And, he could handle all that shit. That's what was cool. He's the real deal. That's the main thing. He was the real deal, and that's why he has so much love and respect in the community, is because he was all about it. He was the real deal, and the real recognizes real in that sense. That's why we're all like, yeah, man, fucking salute.
Yeah, and it's funny because the Chris that I knew and that Lauren and my family knew was a very different person, obviously. But because after he passed, I showed my mom like, videos of like Martivore live and stuff like that. And she's like, oh my God, that's Chris. And I'm like, yep, that's
because he was a fucking sweet dude to give everybody a hug and shit like that. He was a very caring individual.
He was.
People didn't realize that, but that's how the real ones are too. They know how to turn it on and turn it off. And and when it's time to turn it on and get crazy, then you do it. And it's time to turn it off and be normal, do that too.
Yeah. And like when I go see him live and stuff, he's like, okay, I gotta go. I need 20 minutes. And I go somewhere else. And then he'd come out and be a different human. And then he would come back and be Chris. And I was like, okay, cool. And then like, 2 days later, he's at my house. He's buying Lauren like apple fritters or something from
He
Cumberland
would
Farm.
stop at the Cumberland Farms near our house and get me apple fritters every time he came over. I didn't even really like them, but I would eat them anyway because I'm like, well, he bought them.
Yeah, right.
So he would be like, he'd message me and be like, if you hear scratching on your door, it's not me. And then like 20 minutes later, I hear on my door, and I'm just like, oh, damn it, Chris. Like, that's how I knew him.
Yeah, he would like fuck with Lauren a little bit, not crazy, but he would like, you know, tease her a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's what you got to do, the old lady's sister. You know, you got to keep her on her toes. Especially
I mean, how often does Quinn fuck with you, Meg? I mean,
yeah, quite a bit. Like he and I will sometimes like go at it back and forth. So, yeah,
it's a rite of passage.
It is. You know, I was like, all right, he passes the brother-in-law test. We're good. So
there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad like you have like fond memories of him and stuff. Cause you know, I've talked about Chris on the podcast before, and that's a whole other episode. And you know, but it's just nice to like hear someone else's like perspective of him, just because, you know, he meant a lot to me, always will. And like,
absolutely. No, he was a beautiful human being when it comes down to it. That's just the bottom line. You know, he was a fucking beautiful human being. Not afraid to say that. Everybody fucking loved him. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got fond memories of him out here. And even like me and Mitch, like oh man, Sal too, you know, talked to Sal. That's the first thing when I reconnected with Sal. Man, fucking Chris, man. Oh, yeah. Him and Sal were tight, you know, so that hit Sal hard, you know.
Yeah, I remember Sal. Like, I remember like him telling me, oh yeah, this is my friend Sal, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, I remember him telling me about Sal, and not Mitch so much, but you, obviously. And, you know, came up in conversation.
Mitch kind of went off on his own thing for a while, kind of wasn't, you know, he was still into metal, but he went into the experimental music scene. So he kind of lost track of a lot of people, but he's got a lot of fond memories of Chris. You know, when I brought up Chris passing, you know, Mitch was like, wow, oh, dude, holy shit, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I think they would have reconnected at some point because they were buddies back then, you know, in 95, 96.
Yeah. It was always funny when like, you know, because when I met Chris, I was 22, about to be 23, and he was like 38. I think he just turned 38 or something. He was quite a bit. No. Like he was quite a bit older than me, so he would tell me about like shows that happened. Oh, I saw blah 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 in 94, and I'm like, oh, I was 2. So, you know, like it was always like a kind of weird thing. We never really like noticed the age gap until something like that happened, you know, where he's like, oh, I saw this awesome show at like, I forgot what the fucking place is there. It was like, he always talked to me about it. It was like I'm gonna fuck it up, like a Chinese theater or something.
Oh,
what am I thinking?
Cafe. Yeah.
That's what it is. Thank you. I couldn't think of the name, but he told me about that place, how fucking rowdy it was. And he was like, dude,
shows happened there. It was crazy because that's where they filmed the Decline in Western Civilization, the punk documentary from the early 80s.
Yes.
Late 70s, you know, Black Flag and Germs and all that. But then later in the early 90s, they started having a lot of death metal shows there and grindcore shows. So there was a lot of crazy shit. That's when Chris and I were going there. Because obviously we were too young to go there in the punk heyday. But, you know, Chris and I were going to those, you know, Ritual played there. My old band Malfunction, my old grindcore band played there. And, a bunch of legendary shows because like Autopsy played there, Incantation, you know, so a lot of the big tours. Anal Cunt played there, one of their first times out here. A lot of craziness, you know. Like Chris was at all of them. So especially when Ritual played because we're all friends with all those guys. So it was
he would tell me like, oh, I went to this show, I went to that one. He's like, it ain't the fucking same like it is in New England. These guys are pussies, blah, blah, blah. Like, he would always say that. Well, as of, I would say like the last 15 years or so, it's not the same in New England. Like it's a much more tame kind of crowd, especially like the rare shows that do come to Connecticut are very like mellow. Like, you know, in Connecticut, it's more like punk and hardcore shows, I would say. Not a lot of metal comes in. All the metal shows go to like Providence or Boston or, you know, wherever. But, you know, how many times have we driven, Lauren, at least over an hour to go to a show somewhere around here?
Too many times.
So, you know, and it's worth it. But Connecticut, sometimes, you know, There's like the
sometimes they
Wesley
get a
Theater.
really good every once in a while. So.
Right.
Yeah. Like there used to be a really cool place called the Whitney House in West Hartford. And it was just a basement.
Grindcore.
Yeah, it was a lot of grindcore shows down there.
Okay.
And it literally was a basement. I'm almost 6 feet tall. I had about that much room between me and the ceiling. I mean, it was underground. Like,
yeah, that's definitely a basement grindcore show.
Yes, and that was
these little people in there fucking moshing and flying around,
breaking shit.
Ceiling.
There was like pipes on one side, and I remember the pipes bursting one time, and we all had to leave. And I was like,
"Oh yeah, that's always a grindcore show."
Yeah, I'm just like,
grindcore show until the pipes burst and the piss and the shit comes flying out on everybody.
Literally. So, dude, we had fun going to shows like that and stuff, and
man.
Like, we went to shows in Hartford sometimes around here. Like in Bristol, there were a couple shows I remember.
Right. Well, there's a bar called Bleachers that would get shows. So
yeah, and like it wasn't that bar; it was a different one. But I remember like Witch King, who Sean McQuaid is like a really good friend of mine, and they played here in a band called Alcoholocaust, and I don't remember who else. A couple other bands, and I was just like Bristol. I was like, that's fucking weird. Arduous Task.
Alcoholocaust is from Bristol. That's why.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, that's fucking weird. Usually they'll, go somewhere else, but like Cherry Street in Wallingford, that's where like the Pray for Death Fest were. That's where Nunslaughter played, and Sadistic Intent played one year, and
there we go.
Like, yeah, so
my guys.
Yeah, that was put on by a guy named Ezra, who was in Alcoholocaust, but he passed a few years ago. So that's why they don't come around anymore. So because he's the one that would bring all the people here.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Martivore played Pray for Death Fest like a couple years. I don't think they played the year before Chris passed, but I think the year before. I don't remember. My brain is I got brain fog. So yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, so like we get shows around here and stuff like that sometimes, and I would say in the last like 5 years or so, like almost nothing, unless it's like a punk band or something. So
I kind of noticed that too. Certain parts of the US, I don't know. Even sometimes they avoid LA for whatever reason, different legs of the tours, whatever. But
I kind of noticed it too, especially when they brought back Milwaukee Metal Fest, and one of the headlining bands was Mr. Bungle. Like,
and
I love Mr. Bungle. Don't get me wrong. Sure. I hate Mr. Bungle now. I hate them with Dave Lombardo and Scott Ian. Hate it. I can't. I bought that tape when it came out, and they redid one of their grind demos, The Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I love Mike Patton. I fucking can't stand that record. I hate it. And like, there's some people who just because Mike Patton's on it will swear by it, and like,
he's got a cult following. I got
my
homegirl Michelle. She was there Sunday too. She just loves Mike. And it's kind of funny you brought up Faith No More earlier because like my brother and I saw them in '89. They opened for Metallica.
I'm sorry, I need a minute.
Came out. So we were just kind of like, and they played Epic and the real thing or whatever, and we were just kind of like, we weren't into them, but it was like, my brother looked at me and said, "This band's gonna be huge," and I said, "I think so," because you see other bands like I remember when Mr. Big?
Yep.
They opened for Rush, and we were both like, "Ooh, they suck."
Yeah.
But with Faith No More, it was kind of like these guys are talented and weird, and like, they're gonna be big. And they look what happened, right? They blew up. Now they have like a cult thing or whatever, and then Mike Patton does his thing. I'm really not into Mr. Bungle. I'm not into Don Tomas or any of the stuff that he does or whatever.
Yeah.
I like the it's funny. I like that hip hop group that he signed, Dalek from New Jersey. I love that group. If you guys like Godflesh, you'll like fucking Dalek. It's fucking it's so good. So heavy.
That's the thing. Mike Patton, big fucking Godflesh fan.
Big hip hop guy. He likes Wu-Tang and shit like that. That Mobb Deep, like heavy East Coast fucking, so.
Yeah. Dude, and I know, like, and I love, like, the first, like, I don't know how many Mr. Bungle records or whatever, when they were just fucking weird and Dude, I was like, this is amazing. And then they put out this absolute overproduced piece of shit garbage. And I'm like, God,
now they're like a
fucking
corporate
damn.
entity. They're trying to make money.
Yeah.
Megan's all, fuck these fucking motherfuckers.
Yeah. And like, we wanted to go see
I'm
them
an
in
OG
Brooklyn.
fan. Fuck these fucking posers.
Yeah. Dude, we were going to go see him in Brooklyn. And then we couldn't go because the person that was supposed to give us a ride bailed on us like 2 days before.
Well, you probably wouldn't be able to get into the goddamn club because all the hipsters are already there in Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah. Like, it was insane. Just to get tickets alone was a fucking ordeal. We have a whole episode about that. I'm not even kidding.
We actually do have a whole episode about it, how it took us so long to get tickets, and then we couldn't go.
Yeah, we called it the Bungle debacle. It was
I'll
awful.
have to do some guest spot episodes with you guys here and there. You don't even advertise me. I show up as a sidekick just talking shit about weird situations like that. We'll do it after we blow the channel up after Francisco and myself, and you get some other assholes on here, because I think after this podcast, you know, Roy Fox is going to be like, hey, what's up with the twins, bro? And what's up? You know?
Yeah, right?
Oh, boy.
No, dude, like, we love guests. Like, we don't mind having people on, and you know, we've had Chris Gamble on before, and
he's
stuff.
probably
like
going to come on again for sure.
He's such a character. Chris is such an interesting guy, and I don't know if you guys know this, but when I interviewed Chris back in '91 for Goraphobia for Extinction of God fanzine, this motherfucker, he didn't type it out or write it out. He recorded it on a fucking cassette tape.
Yep.
And it was 90 minutes. Both sides, 45. This motherfucker went on about Susie Quattro and Necrovore, and I'm sitting there. I'm fucking 19. I'm just like, motherfucking Chris Gamble, I fucking hate you. No, I love the guy, but I was just
that is him.
I'm sitting at the fucking, my family just, I'm in the family house now. We just got a fucking PC in like 91. So I'm learning the goddamn Microsoft fucking early ass system. Fucking typing out Chris Gamble's shit, because Bart had a typewriter. Because fucking Bart only used a typewriter. If you look at the old fanzine, he was all typewriter. I'm all computer. And I was like, no. He's like, you want me to type it out? I'm like, Bart, you ain't getting on the typewriter with Chris Gamble. This motherfucker, he sent me an audio cassette. He's like, yeah, fuck that. That's all you. And I was like, yeah, fucking A. God damn. This is the best interviews I've ever done. It's like him and Rick Cortez from Sadistic Intent. Because Rick typed it out. He wrote it out. No, he wrote it out. But it was just like 80 pages, man. It was just in depth. And Chris was the same way. You know, and Rick doesn't talk to people. You know, Rick doesn't talk to people. And they're very, Sadistic's a lot more mysterious, you know. But Chris, that interview ruled. I have to dig it up. I think Bart was going to make some PDFs of the fanzines and stuff, so we can put it online and whatnot.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
and
but Chris Gamble, dude, Chris is such a character. He's such a fucking good dude and such an interesting human being. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Chris, very.
He's, what's that phrase? Walking to the beat of your own drum. Like that is definitely him. And like those are my favorite people, are the people that are just like unapologetically themselves and just like
just weird, you know?
Yeah.
We like weird.
In the best way.
Yeah, no, totally. Like weird in a great way that is just so unique. And like, because at the end of the day, we're all underground mutants because we're all into this weird stuff, you know? And that's why we love the Misfits and we love, you know, the music that we do. We listen to fucking crazy, stupid shit like war metal. You know, who the fuck's going to listen to war metal unless you're a wartime motherfucker, right? Shitty black metal, fucking, you know, Mr. Bungle. Shitty hip hop, you know. I mean, it's kind of like just gutter shit, you know, and it's kind of like, yeah, man. I mean, we're all kindred spirits, and that's why it's kind of like all these divisions these days in the underground music scene. It's like, nah, man, you know what? Fuck it, man. We're all here together, and that's where, so GASP into Gravehill, and then so Gravehill actually started in 1999 with Rhett and our buddy Mike Apocalypse and Shane, the Demon, who worked at Bionic Records in Fullerton. And Mike Apocalypse is also the singer of the Reno, Nevada-based Gehenna. There's a lot of Gehennas, but he's the hardcore punk Gehenna.
Yeah.
So they rule, by the way.
Yes.
Mike was infamous for like fucking beating people up and getting crazy and fucking, he's a demon, And then Shane was also working at the record store at the time. So we all knew each other from the music scene. Mike used to come to GASP shows and stuff. And that's where I first met him. He's from San Diego originally, but he was just a maniac that we just connected just because we were both really into like old Creator, Pleasure to Kill, Endless Pain, and like a lot of black metal. He was really into Niflheim and, Bestial Mockery and shit like that, just like Chris, so he was a kindred spirit, just like us, the thrashing, grinding stuff. And of course, we fucking many nights of getting stoned and drunk, listening to Terrorizer and fucking, Napalm and Bestial Mockery and all that shit. So, and Niflheim, obviously, and obviously Venom. But one night, they were the rehearsal studio and promoter. They formed Gravehill in '99, and they were jamming at this crazy ass place in downtown Pomona. It was like 6 stories high, and it was this crazy building at the top. And in '99, Gravehill's playing the first demo, The Practitioners of Fell Sorcery. People could look that up online. It was total Venom Bathory mixed with Frost, Hellhammer, Gone. Kind of modern 99 twist on that heavy, So it was OG death metal basically. And we always call it like, the early to mid 80s death metal, the formation, So they formed this band, and Rhett had made his bones in Morjon at the time. That's what he was known for, and Morjon was fucking awesome. But I was really, Rhett's one of my best friends, and I was always tight with Shane and Mike from the record store because I lived, Fullerton's my current hometown. And back then I've come and gone from Fullerton, California, which is, give people an idea if you're not familiar with the area. It's right close to Anaheim, which is Disneyland. So everybody's been to fucking Disneyland at some time in their life. Anaheim, California, which is the next city over. So that's where I was staying for a bit after I moved out of LA. So I'd go over there to Pomona, watch Gravehill practice because I was just a kindred spirit and loved that old school fucking death metal shit. So became tight with those guys, and then the band just kind of fell by the wayside, unfortunately. But they recorded that demo, that Practitioners demo, and legendary shit, for many years. And one day I was just chatting with Rhett. Rhett was frustrated with his current band, Keen of the Crow, which was awesome, but it was kind of falling apart. They did one album and a demo, and that kind of fell by the wayside. And I was chatting with him on the phone, and he said, dude, I think I'm going to move to Portland or move to, out of state or something, man. I'm tired of this shit. And it's kind of like, well, that's cool and everything, man, but I'm kind of frustrated with my current band that I'm in at the time. I was in a band called Self-Inflicted with Body Bag and a couple other buddies of ours. And it was just kind of like regular death metal, grindcore type stuff, but it wasn't really going anywhere. And I was like, well, if you stick around, why don't you and I join forces and get a fucking, old school 80s death metal band together, Oh, fuck. So he got excited. I got excited. And we were, thinking about names, and I'm the one that brought it up. And I was like, well, why don't we just resurrect Gravehill? And, we can get these assholes involved, Mike and Shane, but he said, nah, Shane and I don't get along. Mike moved, so I don't know. So I actually contacted Mike. His name is Mike Cheese, but also known as Mike Apocalypse, right? But he's known as Mike Cheese. So I contacted my boy Mike, and I said, hey, man, Rhett and I are interested in resurrecting Gravehill, and do you want to be involved? But if you don't want to be involved, do you mind if I fucking sing? And he said, dude, I can't do it, but you have my blessing to take the mic and take the mantle. You have my blessing. So I had to get that from Mike because that's my boy, and he's a legendary figure in the music scene too. And I definitely, he's a peer and a great friend. And if he said no, I wouldn't have done it, but he said yes. So I did it. And I took over as the front man for Gravehill, and the rest is history as far as that goes. From 2006, actually late 2006, all the way to 2015. I was the front man at Gravehill, and we kicked some fucking ass and took some names, and fucking ravaged some motherfuckers across the fucking universe. And we were the American Niflheim, apparently, from what people have said.
I can see that.
That's what people were fucking saying. You know, some people were always saying it was, or the West Coast Nunslaughter is another one. You know, That's what actually Jim Sadis said that himself. He said, "Dude, you guys are the fucking LA Nunslaughter, bro. Don't tell Don I said that." Rest in peace, Jim. By the way,
dude, fucking legend. Man.
Cheers to Jim.
That is all I have.
To Jim.
Hey, we love Don too, man. I full support for Nunslaughter, but Jim was fucking just so unique and awesome.
People behind me, they take up half my wall.
That's right. That's right. But so Gravehill did that. You know, we did our thing for a number of years, and obviously on this podcast we got Devil Worshipper on there because I kind of curated these songs for y'all's podcast today. They're each of my absolute favorite songs of the bands that I've been in. And they were the first 4 songs that rose to the top when I first started talking to you, Megan, about the interview or whatnot. You know, I was kind of picking your brain about, you know, some people have picked other songs and this and that. I was like, no, absolutely. But I'm going to be egomaniac and pick my own shit.
Dude, we love that. Like,
no, you know? But I mean, you know, in the future, I will definitely, you know, if I come back on, pick some other stuff especially if you guys get big, you know, get some bands that deserve some credit that don't get it, you know, like Cardiac Arrest or some of these other bands that I love so much.
I love Cardiac Arrest.
Right. You know, we'll play that shit so much. And Hell's Headbangers, they got an album coming on, Hell's Headbangers. So proud of them. The boys,
so excited.
I love them. Best death metal band around right now, and so excited for that. Can't wait.
Upstanding Gentlemen too. So
Upstanding Gentlemen, absolute. You guys should have both Adam and Tom on here, you know, on the podcast at some point, because
definitely, dude, Tom is our birthday twin. We have the same birthday, which is
Tom
weird.
Would be great. He drinks 10 times more than I do, believe it or not.
Oh shit!
He'll pound like a 24 pack of Busch Light like no other. Right in a 2-hour period, that he's a pounder. So, but no, he's on it though. He's got it. And Adam's just great. You know, he's a character in his own right in a great way. And I got so much love for those guys. You know, I was speaking of Gravehill in 2010, you know, we toured together, Cardiac Arrest and Gravehill, and I drove the Cardiac van. Actually, we split it up. Matt Harvey, you know, exhumed, Mr. Matt Harvey, Mr. Legend now, left to die, gruesome. Everybody knows Matt. He was in Gravehill at the time. We were blessed to have him. It was great. And he was in one vehicle with Rob, Jason, and Rhett. And then it ended up I drove the Cardiac van because I had to quit drinking at that time because I was a maniac.
Relatable.
I just wrecked another truck and I was out of control. And so I sobered up for about 7 years at that point. And I was a perfect candidate for that. And I ended up driving the van with the Cardiac Arrest boys. And if anybody in a band knows touring, you separate the men from the boys and the men from all kinds of other fucking wimps and all kinds of crazy shit out on the road, because all kinds of madness happens out there, right?
Yeah.
The Cardiac guys were just so awesome to be in a van with, and it was some of the best times of my life that I'll never forget. Even being on the road with the Gravehill guys, don't get me wrong, because those are my brothers, but being in the van with Cardiac Arrest was just something that those guys know what's up. I know what's up. You know, it's just something we had so many fucking inside jokes listening to the Jerky Boys and listening to everything else except for death metal.
Dude, that's honestly, you're not the first person to tell me that. Like I've dated quite a few musicians and they always say the same thing. Like, yeah, when we're driving and stuff, no metal. Like it's always like, you know, Leonard Skinner or whatever the fuck they're listening to.
What?
Like,
I mean, especially if you play a festival where it's like, we're playing like Central Illinois Metal Fest where everything's a fucking typewriter, fucking brutal death metal for fucking 8 hours. It's like a spring. I'm part of this shit all fucking night. So the first thing I fucking put on, I get in the fucking van, put on Wu-Tang Clan, put on Leonard Skinner, put on Sonic Youth, put on some fucking Patsy Cline, anything else except for fucking death metal or grindcore. Put on some fucking Maiden ballads, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner for fucking 15 minutes. Oh, let's do it. Let's do it. Fucking A. Let's put on to Tame a Land or, some fucking something crazy like that.
Dude, that has definitely been me and Lauren coming back from like a 3-day fest or something, and we're just like burnt out on fucking like metal, and like in the car we're playing like Britney Spears at full volume or just some shit.
Oh, it's the best.
Because
the funniest is when with Gravehill was we're out on tour with Impiety in 2011, and Matt and Rob left for Exhumed because Exhumed took off again, in 2011, and did their thing or whatever. So we had to, we had this Impiety tour, like, oh shit. But the Exhumed tour, Relapse already hooked that up, so they had to go do it. All right, we figured it out. So we grabbed the Witch Haven guys, Henry and Eric, and put them in there, jammed with them for a bit, worked out great. And we ended up on doing that Impiety tour. It was like 6-7 shows, something like that. No big deal, West Coast type thing, but up and down the West Coast. But at one point, I'm driving the van. Eric, the guitar player from Witch Haven, puts his iPod in. What's the first thing that comes on? Don't. Oops, I did it again. Are you fucking serious, dude? He's all, dude, it breaks up the monotony on tour. And I was like, but you got to have fucking, I'm not that innocent. I was like, yeah, what the fuck? You have the worst iPod. You have like Smash Mouth on there, all kinds of fucking horrible.
Dude, was he like my age?
Music,
because like that's what we grew up with. Like that was me and Lauren.
Holy shit! You have a fucking 80s kid. I got the good era.
Dude, I mean, we listened to like my parents' music too, like Earth, Wind, and Fire, and all that fucking shit, and
the
like
Carpenters.
The Carpenters.
I love Earth, Wind, and Fire. I love the Carpenters. Fucking love it. Love Joni Mitchell. I love the 70s songwriter stuff as long as it's good. Jim Croce and all that shit.
My dad's a big Bruce Springsteen fan, so it was a lot.
I love the Boss, dude. Certain things though, but I'll get into it, like the Nebraska album and Darkness the Other Channel. Oh yeah.
That was us.
Appreciating Terror, like big Bruce fans. Good music's good music. I'm all about it. Godspeed You Black Emperor. That's like big, heavy play when I'm driving sober through Nebraska. Like fucking, there's a storm going on. I need that fucking art fag shit. I need Godspeed You Black Emperor playing in the background.
Right.
Fucking, oh shit. I'm fucking driving through a flood. Matt Harvey's holding my leg. You're okay, bro. You're doing good. I'm okay. We're gonna live.
Oh my god,
that's hilarious. I know for us, like me and Lauren, like if we're driving somewhere long distance, it's like Boston is what we listen to.
Oh my god!
And like,
that first Boston album is so heavy. It's so heavy.
Like I remember, this is the funniest thing ever, and whoever did this. So Lauren and I don't know. We're about an hour from the beach where we are. We were going to the beach one day. And Lauren's like, put on Boston's Greatest Hits. And I was like, okay. So I, find it on YouTube. I plug it in, in the car or whatever. About 10 minutes later, I look at Lauren. I'm like, and More Than a Feeling was the first song. And I'm like, how long is this fucking song? And then I checked the video. Someone just put it on loop for an hour. That was Boston's Greatest Hits. Dude, me and Lauren were furious. We were like, who the fuck did this? Like,
you stupid bitch.
Yeah, like we were cracking up though, because we were like, that's fucking
cry laughing. I had to pull over because I was laughing too hard.
Boston's not that good.
Like I was like More Than a Feeling like 1,000 times in a row, because like in YouTube videos they'll put like the track list sometimes. It was literally More Than a Feeling, like repeat. 20 times. We were like,
for an hour.
For an hour. We were
smoking.
Like,
we're smoking.
I was like, what the fuck are we doing? Dude, I was cry laughing.
More Than a Feeling is a fucking great song, but it's not that great.
Right. They've got some a lot of other good songs too, but we were just like, that's hilarious. Whoever decided to do
No, absolutely.
that.
Fucking Kansas too. We love Kansas.
Oh yeah.
We love Kansas in this family.
Fucking all the Wayward Son, fucking all that shit, man.
Yeah. Dad is a big Kansas fan, like huge Kansas fan.
And even fucking Beatles and Stones too, you know, put on the Beatles, Stones, certain things. You know, some of the Beatles songs are weird. Skip them. Put on fucking, oh, cool. There's a good one.
Yeah.
Same
with we
Stones.
don't need to hear about your Yellow Submarine. We'll just skip that one.
Yeah.
I know. Too much. The Beatles and the Stones both have some clunkers, but yeah.
Yeah, like, and I just think about, like, you know, when we were younger, like, we listened to, like, a lot of, like, you know, my parents listened to, like, Kiss, too, and stuff like that. Yeah. People are weird about Kiss. Like, it's either you get exiled for fucking liking them. Dude, I fucking love them, and you can eat my ass if you don't. Like, I fucking love
Kiss
them.
Army member since you know, pretty much since I was born, but officially, I got the card set from the Kiss Army in 78. So
damn.
I still have them. I'm a Kiss Army member. I still have my patch somewhere.
That is awesome.
I fucking love Kiss, man. They have so many great songs.
Dude,
like,
I don't
that's
care.
Why they're so great live, because you know it's all the hits, and sometimes they bust out fucking, you know, Cold Gin or some fucking deep cuts that fucking oh shit. You know, same thing with Cheap Trick. Like I saw Cheap Trick in 2007 at a small theater down here. Well, not a small theater, same place that Gravehill used to play at the Galaxy in Santa Ana, but you know, Cheap Trick's a big fucking band, you know, and it was like, holy shit, they fucking not only do they rule, I forgot how many fucking hits they have.
Yeah. Like
the goddamn fucking, you know, the what's that fucking TV show that we all watched? Fucking with what's his face, the Stoner Show, the 70s show.
Oh, that's 70s show.
Yeah, with fucking Ashton Kutcher and all those assholes.
Yeah,
the rapist fucking dick. You know.
Yeah, that guy. Oh, dude, I know. Like,
I was like, oh shit, they did that fucking song. I forgot about that fucking shit. Oh shit, fuck dude, yeah. And they just kept playing them. I was like, holy shit, they did that.
Yeah, that was like back in like 2011 or something. We saw Blue Oyster Cult at a casino.
Oh, what a band.
And like it was a free show. It was like first come first serve, and we got in right away, and technically we weren't of age yet. Like we were just under 21. So we were like praying to God no one asked us for an ID. But like we just kind of snuck by everyone and like weaseled our way in. Dude, it's one of the best fucking live shows we ever witnessed. Like
it
was like
awesome.
2 hours of fucking
so good.
Yeah, just hit after hit.
Good. One of the best bands ever for sure.
Yeah, and we didn't have to pay for it.
To me. I mean, yeah, no, that's great. You guys saw them. That's so good.
Yeah.
I always recommend that to everybody. I remember even talking to Scott and Matt from Repulsion at one point, and they were just like, "Oh, dude, we've seen them fucking so many fucking times, like even back in heyday." And I was like, "Yeah," because they're older. But my brother, he took me to see them back, and I think it was like the late '80s. I finally saw them, and God, they were fucking just incredible. And again, like we were talking about, like I didn't realize how many fucking hits they have, you know, because they played Don't Fear the Reaper and Godzilla, but then they start playing the Psychic War stuff, and it was like, oh my God, they're just, Buck is just so masterful, just everything, you know, he's such a god, you know, they're just so great.
I think Laura and I were sitting there with our mouths agape the entire time. Just
we were just,
my God,
the whole time.
Because they're gods, you know, and they're very underrated for sure.
Yeah, and I don't even know, like, we didn't know they were even playing that day. We were just at the casino by chance. Like, my mom is a gambler, so we just went with her one day, and you know, we were just like walking around, like whatever, because it's a big ass casino. So we were just like, I don't know, we got food and whatever we were doing, and then we saw like a sign somewhere, and it was like Blue Oyster Cult free show, and I was like, when's that? And they're like, fucking today, and we were like, oh shit. Yeah, and we were like, oh my God. And I was like, Mom, you can go spend all your money. We're going to go watch Blue Oyster Cult. Like, we got to go see this. And man, Lauren and I like sat there like the entire time. Like, we didn't get up once. We were just like, oh my God, they were so good. So, you know, just by chance, we happened to see them. And
fuck yeah.
You know, killer. That's always the best.
So, no, that's killer. That's killer. One of the best bands ever. Toast to Blue Oyster Cult. Fuck yeah.
Yes, my last little bit.
Yeah,
there you go.
I'm almost out of juice. This makes me sad.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
You need a juice break.
I need a juice break. No, I know. I probably shouldn't be drinking it, but I am today. Damn it. So I wanted a fun drink. That's what I said to Lauren. I'm like, I'm getting a fun drink. And she's like, wait, me too. So,
I know, because I was like falling asleep. I'm like, I got to wake up. So I got Baja Blast.
we need not just caffeine, all the caffeine.
Yeah, right to the heart. You
if
know,
you're going to do it, do the goddamn Baja Blast. That's the way to fucking do it.
Like that scene in Pulp Fiction where they stab that shit in their chest.
Right.
That's exactly what it is. Dude,
Say something. Something?
Yeah.
I just watched that the other night, too.
Dude, I love
So
that
good.
fucking movie.
Oh, yeah.
Just
love all the Tarantino flicks, but that one specifically is still like fucking just...
Yeah.
Because I think I fall into the fucking rabbit hole on YouTube, and I saw Bill Burr talking about Jackie Brown, and we got the whole Tarantino thing. So after I watched that fucking little 7-minute clip about Bill Burr ranting about how awesome Jackie Brown was, and how at first he was a fucking moron because he thought it sucked because it came out after there was the first Tarantino flick after Pulp Fiction. Oh, this fucking sucks. It was kind of like when No Country for Old Men came after Fargo, or no, he was Big Lebowski came after Fargo, and it sucked, but it really didn't because it was better and this and that.
Dude, I hated Fargo. Fuck that movie. That movie was
love.
I hated
the TV show too.
I never watched a TV show. I probably would like it more. I hated that movie. I don't know why. It just like this fucking nerd is like getting kicked around and so. And I'm like, what am I watching?
Man. Yeah, you should go back and watch it, Meg. It's fucking killer.
I'll try it again, but I also watched it with someone that I don't want to name, so that was also part of the problem.
Well, fuck that. First of all, but, yeah, no, it's fucking. Do you like the other? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Was Reservoir Dogs? Was that Tarantino? I always fuck that up.
That is Tarantino. Yeah, that's his first flick. Okay. Yeah, he was supposed to direct True Romance.
Oh, okay.
But Tony Scott did.
I love Reservoir Dogs.
Reservoir Dogs.
Have you seen it, Lauren? Because I know you're not.
I know I suck at movies. I don't remember. Probably not.
It was
You're not a movie gal?
Yeah. No, not really.
I turned into one.
I know I have a hard time just sitting and paying attention to a movie. That's my problem. So I'll sit and listen to a whole fucking record for like 2.5 hours, but I can't watch a movie apparently. So
interesting.
Yeah. No, I get it. Like,
all right, well,
you need to watch a movie person. Yeah, dude, I'm telling you,
one of those nerds that loves albums, movies, all that shit. Mm-hmm. So
I'm more of a gamer, so I'll sit and play a game for 4 hours straight, but I can't watch a fucking movie to save my life.
Definitely. Yeah.
So. Dude, how many times like I text Lauren, I get a text like 6 hours later. I'm like, did you fall off the face of the earth?
Yeah, I know. Like, I'm sitting in here playing games. Yeah.
She's like, sorry, I'm gaming.
What?
He's like, thanks. No, I mean, I don't care. I'm not much of a gamer. I'm more of a movie person, and like I watch a lot of like series and stuff like that, like documentaries and all that shit. So my favorite thing as of recently, because now they've been live streaming them like 24 hours constantly, is the Mystery Science Theater live streams. Dude, when Chris and I met, that was our bread and butter, because he never met like a chick that was into that show. And he was like, wait, you like, I'm like, yes, I do. And we like, for like the first 3 months we dated, all we did was watch Mystery Science Theater. So now
I don't watch movies. I watch YouTube. I'm like a big YouTube person. And I watch like, I know we were talking about the paranormal stuff before. The channel I've been watching is called Nick and Ryan. It's incredible. So they both have their individual channels and they talk about like creepy shit, but now they have a paranormal channel where they go to like buildings and they do all this stuff with it.
You look that up.
And it's so good.
Well, it's good because they started out like not believing in ghosts
skeptics.
Like nothing, and now they're like, okay, like we had all these weird things happen and now we can't like explain it. So
no, that's usually how it begins, you know.
Yeah. So it's a great fucking channel. I just watched it recently.
They add like some humor into it, so it's not like super serious, and I like that shit because People who take stuff too seriously, it's boring to me. It's like, you have fun, you know?
I know.
Well, it's like Zach Baggins, like, you know, you can tell, like, he's a douche from the fucking get-go.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Then he tries to take advantage of fucking situations. And then the fucking, what the dipshit Post Malone, he fucking cursed that guy with fucking all kinds of weird shit going on. And
yeah.
What the Post Malone fucking hooked up with him. Like, he's had all this bad luck and shit. And it was just like, my buddy, we were talking about my buddy Bart earlier at Frankenson's. Post Malone did a signing there. And actually, Bart had a conversation with Post Malone about that situation. And Post Malone was like, dude, fuck Zach Baggins, dude.
Yeah,
yeah, seriously.
Oh, shit, okay. And like Post Malone was like, dude, fuck that dude, man. That
dude,
guy
what a dickhead thing.
Up, you know?
Yeah, like, even if like you could supposedly send back look to some, like, what a dickhead thing to say.
Yeah.
Like, so the one band that you're in that I know the least about is Vrenth, by the way.
Yeah, so I didn't want to leapfrog Ruin, but I can kind of jump into the Ruin real quick and then jump into Vrenth. That way we can, obviously I'll go on for fucking hours and we're going to have like 18 parts to my life and shit. And you guys are like, oh God, why did we ever bring this asshole on here? But, so towards the end of Gravehill, I decided I wanted to get Ruin resurrected. Ruin was a band that I had in like 91 actually. And Robert from Nero One, who later put out our 2015 demo, he's the original singer, and a bunch of other, friends we had. We were basically ripping off like, old Paradise Lost and Autopsy, fucking death metal, Finland and Sweden and what have you. And it was horrible. We didn't know what we were fucking doing. Just like old GASP, it was horrible. We didn't know what the fuck we were doing until we kind of figured it out somewhat. We still don't know what we're doing. But even to this day, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm on a podcast with y'all, so I guess I'm doing halfway decent.
I will take that as a compliment.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ruin kind of was a concept that was born in the early 90s from the tape trading days. And then I went on to other things, but it was always in the back of my mind. It was kind of funny because Body Bag, Rob Babcock, my boy, he's my brother. He's my little brother. And I've been with him for years and years and years now. So he's one of my crime partners. And along with pretty much anybody I've been in a band with, you know what I mean? You got to have a really good relationship. I mean, being in a band with somebody is very similar to a marriage to me. I know it sounds cheesy, but it's fucking true as fuck.
No, it's true.
Because you have to fucking be in a fucking van together, especially a bunch of smelly dudes. Like that fucking van smells like a fucking morgue after a while.
Yeah.
If you're with the wrong people, right?
Yeah, I'm familiar.
It smells like a morgue, but if you're fucking with a bunch of long hairs, it smells like a morgue mixed with Pert Plus.
Yeah.
There's fucking, when long-haired fucking hair farmers have a fucking chance to fucking wash their hair. See, I'm a bald motherfucker. I only have hair in my beard and my balls now, so so maybe my beard and my balls smell like Pert Plus, but my head definitely doesn't.
Oh
but
my God.
It smells like fucking weird shit in that fucking van. But honestly, you gotta have a good relationship with people. And so Ruin didn't really go anywhere back then because of various circumstances. We'll get into that another time. I went on to other things, and Gravehill entered my life and took that portion of my life over. And then when it was time to end Gravehill for me in my life, I just didn't want to tour anymore. And these guys were road warriors, so they wanted to keep going. So I passed the torch on to Jason Corpse. And he took over the vocal duties, and he had my blessing just like Mike gave it to me. So that was it, and regardless of what anybody says, he fucking killed it. He kicked some fucking ass, and they put out some fucking releases that fucking killed, and I even guested on a couple things, but I thought they were doing fucking great, and that really gave me a good feeling to, at that point, what I really wanted to do is down-tuned early 90s death metal again. So that's when I got Ruin resurrected, decided to fucking start that back up, and I did. And Christian was involved in the original incarnation in about 2014, 2015, and I ran across David online because he was this black death metal cholo dude that was posting videos of himself blast beating, playing with his band Eternum. It was a killer black metal band locally here in LA. But then the next minute he was posting like oldies from the Art LeBeau FM Cholo era. Art LeBeau is a people that don't know in Los Angeles, Art LeBeau is a legend. He's like this old dude that's all into doo-wop and 50s stuff, and he would do dedications on his radio station. He would play a lot of old 50s and 60s music. Those of us that lived in the hood in Los Angeles, we all listened to Art LeBeau. He was a disc jockey that really embraced the old school 50s and 60s music. So David was playing a lot of these old classics and a lot of James Brown and Little Richard and shit like that. And I was just like, all right, this cat's unique, but he could fucking play some black beats like a motherfucker. This motherfucker's a machine. So I was like, I think I want to jam with this cat. So I hit him up. I said, hey, man, let's get in the studio in Santa Fe Springs, which is like a little suburb of LA. Little studio they had. Hey, fool, let's jam. And in the back of my mind, I knew within 30 seconds if this fucking shit was going to work or not. Right? So I played the first fucking riff of Perverted Lunacy, which is the first song on the fucking Ruin demo. Now, it's kind of funny because Christian wrote that fucking song. That's the one Ruin song that Christian wrote back in the day. Because Christian actually ended up moving up north to take over the family brewery. There was a family beer brewery that him and his wife were going to go take over. So they moved up to the Bay Area to go do that at the time. And I was intimidated, like, fucking, dude, Christian is like fucking Steve Vai and shit. I mean, this motherfucker's a badass guitar player. He plays some fucking wicked riffs, He wrote the song. We jammed in, late 2014. I'm a horrible musician. I know what I'm doing, kind of this and that, but I'm a singer. Yeah. I can play guitar, but I don't know. I play this fool's riffs. Oh shit! I surprised myself. Like I could actually play Christian's riffs. So for some weird reason, that gave me confidence. I played Perverted Lunacy. I played the whole fucking song. Well, out of fairness, he taught me the fucking song at the studio one night. He just showed me the riffs real quick. I was like, oh fuck, I could play that. I was just like totally intimidated, But I was like, oh, okay. I could play this shit. So I played the fucking song. I was like, telling David, you know what? I think I could fucking play some other songs. One of the original Ruin songs from 1991 that never got recorded was Massacre of Flesh and Bones that appeared on the Spread Plague Hell demo in 2015, years later. So, all right, we got 2 songs. And then we wrote the third one. And did a Discharge cover, and the rest is history. We put out that fucking Spread Plague Hell demo, and since Christian was living in the Bay Area, he was connected with Eric Cutler from Autopsy.
Oh, nice.
Eric had necrosis with a mutual friend, Erica, bass player. She is, I think she's in Vastum. She's in Mortuous now. Erica's the best. She's a badass fucking musician, badass chick.
Awesome.
Fucking beautiful. You know what I mean? She's fucking great. Great friend. Totally killer for a fucking person. And Charlie Korn, who's now in like Incantation. He was jamming in Morbid Angel for a while. Fucking amazing drummer from San Diego. So Charlie ended up coming up to the Bay Area and jamming in this project with Eric Cutler. So it was like Eric Cutler, Christian, Erica, and Charlie Korn. Then they got Sean from Impaled and Ghoul to sing. And that was Necrosic. And that Yusuke Nuclear War Now put that shit out. Legendary EP, fucking badass, fucking death metal side project and shit, you know. So
awesome.
It was fucking cool. So what ended up happening was that project kind of fell by the wayside. Eric Cutler obviously got busy with Autopsy. So the rest of the people, I think Sean was busy with Ghoul too, obviously, because they're fucking all over the place. So I think Christian, Charlie, and Erica kept kind of jamming or coming up with riffs. So Necrosic fell by the wayside, but they had all this music that they wanted to do. So part of that became Vrenth with Christian and Charlie. So that became like a side project of Necrosic and Ruin. But it was almost like it took its own, you know, life on at a certain point, especially like that first Vrenth album we recorded and fucking tracked right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Everything kind of came together right before the fucking pandemic hit. We literally had Charlie down here in Southern California. We fucking did it. Him and Christian were able to jam together, get all that fucking shit tracked up, and fucking that's how Vrenth came together.
That is crazy. So
wow.
Did Vrenth, because of the pandemic and stuff, did you ever like no shows or anything like that? Just releasing music and shit?
Vrenth played one show, and
okay.
Initially it was funny because I don't know if we want to get into it now or we can save it for the next episode. It's up to you guys.
We'll save it because we're coming on 3 hours and I'm like,
No.
Yeah,
because I could go on for this whole story is kind of in depth or whatever. So
we'll definitely save it. We'll leave on a cliffhanger for everybody.
No,
so they can
right
come
now we will talk more about Ruin, and we're going to talk about Vrenth and the first Vrenth show and the only Vrenth show, and we're going to save that for episode whatever. The second episode with Mike Abominator, whatever it's going to be, we'll figure it out. But you motherfuckers better listen to that shit.
Yeah,
please.
You better, because Lord, so polite, please.
Just please. There's going to be that one asshole who's like, but you didn't say please.
Oh, that one asshole can fucking kiss my fat Irish ass.
Well, you heard it, folks. Fuck her up,
sorry.
bitch.
But on that note, oh my God. So the next two songs we're going to put in, for the end of the podcast, will be Ruin and Vrenth songs as well. The Ruin song you picked is actually my favorite too. So
yeah.
Drawn in Blood. Oh my God, such a good song. So dude, I'm so happy this finally happened. Like, thank you again.
Yeah,
and please come on again soon. Like,
I love having you. Next month, maybe we'll do another episode because there's so much more to talk about with Chris stories and my own stupid stories.
Hell yeah.
I know we spent like half the time talking about like religion, and we were like, no religion, and then it was all religion.
No, that's why this podcast fucking rules. It's just just random chats. That's the
it's just stream of consciousness. Whatever the hell we want to talk about.
That's how it should be.
Yeah,
it's totally cool.
Because that's honestly, when we started this, like I said, we just wanted to record our stupid conversations we had sometimes, like when we were half awake, or if you hear back to like our earlier episodes, we're always tired when we're recording.
I know, especially me. I'm like yawning and exhausted.
Yeah, like
it's like, why did we record today if you're just tired?
But Lauren, when she is tired, like some of the shit that she comes out with is like, it's hilarious. And I'm like, damn, I should have wrote that down or recorded it. So that's why we were like, fuck it, let's just do a podcast, and then everyone can laugh with us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The best interviews to me, number one, is always starts with, let the person talk. Number one.
Right.
Number two is that you know the history of this person, so you can ask the right questions.
Right.
So you can let them just go off. But then, number three, know your shit, so you interject, personal experiences with everything. So,
right.
That's perfect.
And that's why I'm so glad you came on too, because like I knew you and Chris were friends and stuff, but I'm like, I have no idea how they became friends. Like he never told me. He was kind of like quiet about his like personal life. So who are your friends? Like,
well, no, because you were his lady, so he didn't want to know. He was the little shit of the group at first.
Yeah.
I was looking down on him like, you little poser. What are you doing?
Dude, I don't know why. I was a little shit of the family for years until, the younger cousins came around. But
I forgot he was from Redondo.
Yeah.
And then Mitch reminded me. I was like, oh shit, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy. So with that being said, we're going to play the Ruin and Vrenth songs, and we're going to wrap it up here. So thank you again so much for coming on and hanging out with us. It's been an absolute blast.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and stay tuned because we're going to have a
part two.
Part two at some point. So
we got more. It's coming.
We got more. So, all right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah.
Ferma. Io sono... No.